Aliyah worked 2 brutal shifts at a diner just to survive. One night, she helped a starving man with a free meal. The next day, her boss found out and fired her on the spot. Defeated and out of options, she thought her life was over. But then, something unbelievable happened, and nothing could have prepared her for it. Aliyah had known struggle her whole life. Orphaned young, she lived with her ailing grandmother, working double shifts at a small diner just to keep food on the table. "I'd rather work than beg," she often reminded herself, even when exhaustion weighed her down like a boulder. One evening, just as she was refilling a customer's coffee, the diner door creaked open. A young man hesitated at the entrance. His clothes were torn, his hair unkempt, and his eyes held the kind of weariness that came from hunger. Not just the hunger of an empty stomach, but the deeper kind. The kind that made people invisible. He shuffled to a booth in the farthest corner. Aliyah's co-worker, Sandra, barely gave him a glance before striding over, tapping her notepad impatiently. "Are you ordering or just taking up space?" The man shifted uncomfortably. I'd like some food, but I don't have money." He swallowed. "If there's anything you can spare..." Sandra snorted. "You're young. You've got arms and legs. Go work for it like the rest of us." She rolled her eyes. "This isn't a soup kitchen." Heat crept up Aliyah's neck as she watched the man's face flush with shame. He muttered something under his breath and stood to leave. Aliyah didn't think. She grabbed a takeout box, quickly filled it with food, and ran after him. "Hey, wait!" The man turned, surprised. She held out the box. "Here, it's not much, but..." His fingers brushed hers as he took it. "Why?" His voice was barely above a whisper. She gave a small shrug. "Because you're hungry." For a moment, he just stared at her, as if trying to understand something far bigger than a simple meal. Then, he exhaled a soft laugh, shaking his head. "You have no idea what you've just done." Before she could ask what he meant, he turned and walked away. The next day, Aliyah was halfway through her shift when she heard the dreaded voice. "Aliyah, office, now." She turned to see her manager, Mr. Peterson, standing in the doorway with his arms crossed, his face set like stone. Her stomach tightened. Inside his office, he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "Did you give away free food last night?" Aliyah hesitated. "Yes, but Did you pay for it?" "Yes." Peterson slapped his hand on the desk, making her flinch. "That's not the point." His voice rose. "This is a business, not a charity. Do you know what happens when customers see employees giving away free food? They start expecting it. Then what?" Aliyah frowned. "Then we help people who need it." Peterson let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "Oh, that's rich. You want to play hero? Fine. Go do it somewhere else. You're fired." The words hit like a slap. "Sir, please..." "I don't want to hear it." He waved a hand toward the door. "Get out." Aliyah's throat tightened. Was this really happening? As she turned to leave, the diner's entrance swung open. The room went still as a man in a sharp black suit stepped inside. Aliyah barely noticed at first, until he walked toward her. Her breath caught. It was him, the same man from last night. But gone was the weary, broken look. His posture was straight, his presence commanding. Peterson's irritation turned to forced politeness. "Sir, can I help?" "I'm not here for you." The man's voice was smooth, confident. His eyes locked onto Aliyah's. "I never got to introduce myself properly. I'm Nathan." Aliyah blinked. You look different." A small smile tugged at his lips. "Funny what a good suit and a fresh start can do." Peterson cleared his throat. "Sir, we're kind of in the middle of something here." Nathan turned to him with a look so sharp it made the manager shut up instantly. "You fired her," Nathan said, more a statement than a question. Peterson straightened. "That's none of your business." Nathan pulled something from his pocket and tossed it onto the counter. A business card. Peterson picked it up, reading aloud. His face paled. "Nathan Calloway, CEO of—" He stopped short. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. Aliyah frowned. "Wait, CEO?" Nathan turned back to her. "I wanted to find you. But when I got here and saw what was happening..." He glanced at Peterson. "I made an offer." The manager's jaw clenched. "You bought the diner?" Nathan smiled. "I like to invest in businesses with potential." His gaze slid back to Aliyah. "And people with integrity." Aliyah's pulse raced. Nathan reached into his pocket and handed her something. A check. Aliyah's hands trembled as she read the amount. $500,000. Her breath hitched. I can't accept this." "You can," Nathan said softly. "And you will." Her vision blurred with unshed tears. "I was once in your position," Nathan continued. "Hungry, lost. A stranger helped me once, just like you did. That kindness changed everything for me. Now, I look for people who remind me of that moment." Aliyah wiped at her eyes, still unable to believe what was happening. Nathan gestured toward the diner. "And if you still want a job, I could use someone who actually knows how to treat people." Peterson's face twisted. "Wait, are you saying—" "I'm saying you're fired," Nathan replied smoothly. Then, with a grin at Aliyah, "And she's in charge now." The manager sputtered, but Aliyah barely heard him. Her world was spinning. A day ago, she had been scraping by. Now, she had a future. Aliyah closed her fingers around the check, her heart pounding. And for the first time in years, she let herself believe.